Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're getting into something a little bit different. The perfect murder.
Ooh, intriguing.
We've got a couple of sources for this one. We've got Ruskin Bond's anthology, The Perfect Murder.
Okay.
We're going to be focusing mostly on his introduction to the anthology and then one of the stories within it by Stacey Aumonier called The Perfect Murder.
Makes sense.
And then we're going to...
A little on the nose.
Yeah, we're going to top it off with some excerpts from one of the Sherlock Holmes stories, The Red-Headed League by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Ooh, a classic.
So really what we're looking at today is how authors go about constructing this idea of the perfect murder.
Yeah.
Right? The motives behind them, and then also whether such a thing is even possible in fiction or in reality.
Yeah, it's interesting how this concept just captures our imagination.
Totally.
Like just the idea that a crime could be committed so flawlessly.
It's like the ultimate puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Can you pull it off?
Yeah. Can you outsmart everyone and just get away with it?
Yeah, totally. And Ruskin Bond actually starts off his introduction by asking that exact question.
Oh, wow.
He says, is the perfect murder ever possible?
It's the age-old question.
It really is, and you can tell that he's a huge fan of mysteries and detective stories.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
He specifically calls out Agatha Christie and Arthur Conan Doyle as, like, masters of the genre.
Yeah, their influence is undeniable.
Totally. And he specifically mentions
go on.
that he's a big fan of locked room mysteries.
Oh, those are so fun.
Those, like, baffling, impossible scenarios.
Yeah, where it seems like there's absolutely no way
Totally.
that the crime could have happened.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to that in all of us that really loves to figure stuff out.
Absolutely.
You know, to unravel the unknown.
Yeah, to try and find some order in the chaos.
Totally. And sometimes it's not just about the whodunit.
Right.
Right? Like sometimes it's not just about who committed the crime. It's about why.
Oh, yeah, the motive.
Like what was the web of relationships and desires that led to this act?
Exactly. And that can be even more compelling than just simply figuring out who did it.
Right, because you're trying to understand the person behind the action.
It's that psychology behind the crime.
Yeah.
That can be so intriguing.
Totly.
And Stacey Aumonier's story, The Perfect Murder.
Yes.
That's a perfect example of that.
It really is. He introduces us to these two brothers,
Okay.
Paul and Henri. Yeah. And right away you get the sense that their relationship is...
Interesting.
Yeah.
Complicated.
A bit strained. Yeah, complicated.
Yeah. Okay.
So at the beginning of the story, they're reading these newspaper accounts of murders. Right.
Okay.
They're like dissecting these different cases.
Oh, wow. Armchair detectives.
Yeah. And it's almost like they're admiring the audacity of certain killers.
Oh, interesting.
And then Paul makes this really chilling statement.
Oh, what does he say?
He says, if ever my time comes, I shall take a lot of trouble about it. I promise you I shall leave no trace behind.
Ooh, that's creepy.
It is, right. Like, you get the sense that he's already...
Like, he's thought about this.
Yes, he's contemplated it, and it's made even more unsettling by the fact that Paul is involved in some, like, shady business dealings.
What does he do?
He's like a traveler in cheap jewelry.
Oh, okay, so not exactly.
Not exactly the most...
trustworthy profession.
Yeah, right. And then you've got Henri, his brother, who's like...
Yeah.
Works as a clerk, struggling to support his wife and children.
Yeah.
You know, and he constantly feels overshadowed by his brother Paul.
Oh, I see a little sibling rivalry.
Yeah, for sure. And then their wealthy Uncle Robert dies.
Okay.
And they both just kind of assume that they're not going to get anything.
Right.
But there's a twist.
Oh, what is it?
The will leaves everything
to
their aunt.
Oh, wow.
But it's in trust.
Interesting.
So they only get a small portion of the interest, and they only get that when she dies.
Oh, so they're stuck waiting.
Exactly.
Their inheritance.
And that's kind of where this perfect murder plot starts to take shape. Oh, I see. So they're driven in part by financial desperation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think also a sense of resentment.
Oh, yeah, like why her and not us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unsettling how their resentment towards their aunt starts to grow.
Right.
And how easily they start discussing her mortality.
Oh, yikes.
And then they come up with this plan to poison her with ground glass.
Oh, my gosh, that's awful.
It's really chilling.
Yeah, and it's like they're so methodical about it.
Yeah, they're very meticulous in their planning.
Like they really want to make sure...
They want to make sure they don't get caught.
Yeah, that it's the perfect murder.
And Aumonier, he does such a good job of like making the reader really feel the torment that Andre's going through.
Right, because he's
like,
torn.
Yes, he's got this inner struggle, right?
Like he wants the money.
Yeah.
But he also knows that what they're doing is wrong.
Right. And he's caught in the middle.
Exactly. And it's like Aumonier is building this suspense right. Yeah, he's really good at that.
He's got you on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next.
So what happens next?
Well, Paul, being Paul,
yeah,
he like worms his way into his aunt's good graces.
Oh, how does he do that?
He like moves in with her.
Oh, wow.
And he starts getting free room and board.
Oh, so he's playing the part of the good nephew?
Exactly. But the whole time he's like secretly plotting against her.
Oh, wow. That's so devious.
And so the power dynamic shifts, right?
Yeah.
And Henri starts to get really jealous.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Of his brother.
He's getting everything.
Yeah, he's getting the inheritance, he's getting the attention.
Right.
And it just creates this like powder keg of emotions.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, right?
Oh, what?
About whether the perfect murder isn't just about the act itself,
right,
but about the state of mind that leads someone to that point.
That's a great point.
Like, what kind of person would even consider
right.
doing something like this? And that's where we'll leave off for now.
Well, come on.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon to delve even deeper into this twisted tale.
All right, I can't wait.
So, Amoye, he leaves the ending open, right?
He does.
Like, we don't actually know if their plan worked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like left to the reader's imagination.
I like that.
And it really makes you think about the consequences.
Yeah.
You know, both intended and unintended.
Yeah, like the ripple effects.
Of their actions.
Yeah. And speaking of like calculated acts. Okay. Let's move on to a story.
Yeah.
Where the crime is more about ingenuity than desperation.
All right, I'm intrigued.
So this is Arthur Conan Doyle's The Red-Headed League.
Ah, classic.
Right. This one's a bit of a lighter mystery.
Okay.
Full of Doyle's signature wit.
Yes.
And it really showcases Holmes's remarkable detective skills.
It's always fun to see him in action.
Right. So we're introduced to Jabez Wilson.
Okay.
He's a pawnbroker.
Right.
And he's got this like bright red hair.
Oh, okay. And he stumbles upon this really bizarre opportunity.
What is it?
It's called the Red-Headed League.
What?
Yeah. And they offer him...
They offer redheaded people.
Yeah, they offer him a really generous salary.
For what?
Just for being a member.
Of the Red-Headed League?
Of the Red-Headed League.
That's so strange.
I know, right?
What do they even do?
Well, that's the thing. It's like so outlandish. It almost seems like a joke.
Right.
But of course, Holmes, he sees right through it.
Of course he does.
Right. He's got this keen eye for detail.
Yeah.
And he picks up on these, like, seemingly insignificant things.
Like what?
Like Wilson's got these stained trousers.
From what?
From kneeling.
Oh.
And then there's like his assistant.
Yeah.
Who's acting really suspicious.
In what way?
Like he keeps disappearing. And he's got these like acid splashes on his clothes.
Acid splashes? What is he doing?
Exactly right. It's all very strange. And Holmes, he starts to piece it all together.
And what does he figure out?
Well, it turns out that the Red-Headed League, it's just a big distraction.
A distraction for what?
So while Wilson is busy copying the encyclopedia.
Copying the encyclopedia.
Yeah, that's what they have him doing.
Okay.
His assistant is actually digging a tunnel.
A tunnel?
Yeah.
To where?
The bank.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So it's like an elaborate heist?
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Right. They exploited this seemingly harmless eccentricity.
Red hair? Red hair.
To pull off a major crime.
It's a good reminder that criminals can be very creative.
They can.
Right.
Yeah, and resourceful.
Totally.
So what happens? Do they catch them?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, good.
There's this like nighttime stakeout.
Oh, that's exciting.
At the bank.
Yeah.
And it's all very suspenseful.
I bet.
But Holmes, he saves the day.
Of course he does.
And it's just like another case closed.
Another victory for Sherlock Holmes.
Right. So we've got The Perfect Murder.
Yes.
And The Red-Headed League.
Very different stories.
They are.
But they both kind of present these different takes on this theme of a perfect crime.
Right. One is driven by desperation.
Yeah.
And the other by like meticulous planning and ingenuity.
And yet they both kind of remind us.
Oh, of what?
That even the most carefully crafted plans can unravel.
Right. Things don't always go according to plan.
They don't. And there are always these unforeseen consequences.
Yeah.
Whether it's the psychological toll on the people involved.
Right.
Or like the intervention of a brilliant detective.
Yeah, or just plain bad luck.
Exactly. So it seems like this pursuit of perfection, especially when it comes to crime, it's kind of a flawed endeavor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. There's always something that can go wrong.
Some little detail that gets overlooked.
Totally. And now we're going to shift gears a bit and look at a story where the narrator himself becomes convinced that he is the target of a perfect murder plot.
That's creepy.
Yeah. So this is Ruskin Bond's own story called He Said It with Arsenic.
Ooh, that title.
It's a good one, right? All right, so we've seen these meticulous planners, right?
Oh, yeah, like the Aumonier brothers.
The Aumonier brothers, exactly.
They're ground glass.
Yeah, so creepy. And then we've got that audacious scheme by John Clay.
Oh, yeah, with the Red-Headed League?
The Red-Headed League just using red hair.
So clever.
I know, as a distraction.
It's brilliant.
But now we're going to look at a story where the lines between like guilt and innocence get all blurred.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this pursuit of a perfect murder, it becomes this like chilling reflection of one man's past.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm intrigued.
So this is Ruskin Bond's own story. He Said It with Arsenic.
Ooh. That title alone gives me chills.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to Uncle Bill.
Uncle Bill.
Okay. And he's got this really complicated history. Well, Bond kind of reveals it through these little anecdotes, right? And these hints that there's something dark beneath the surface.
Like what do we find out?
Well, we learn that he used to be a male nurse in India.
All right.
And he had this like peculiar interest in terminally ill patients.
Oh, that's a little...
Yeah, and then eventually he gets convicted...
Of what?
Of a double murder.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's definitely something off about this guy.
Yeah, and it makes you think about redemption, right?
Right, like can someone really escape their past?
Exactly, or does it always come back to haunt them?
Yeah, makes you wonder.
And so years pass, and Uncle Bill just kind of disappears.
From the narrator's life.
Yeah, the narrator, he becomes a successful author. You know, puts the past behind him.
Seems like it.
But then Uncle Bill shows up again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he's looking for a place to stay.
Oh, so the narrator takes him in.
He does. He's a little hesitant at first.
I bet.
But, you know, he offers him a room.
Yeah.
But there's this, like, unease.
Right.
This nagging suspicion.
That something's not right.
Yeah, that Uncle Bill's motives aren't so pure.
Oh, I see.
And Bond is so good at building this tension.
How so?
Well, the narrator... he starts observing his uncle really closely. Like his quiet demeanor, his routines, and this peculiar interest he takes in the narrator's success.
Oh, that's a little creepy.
It is, right? And it all just adds to this growing sense of unease.
So what happens? Does the narrator confront him?
Well, he kind of tries to brush it off at first. Like there's this like lighthearted banter between them.
Yeah.
Almost like he's trying to convince himself that his fears are unfounded.
Right.
But you can tell that the seeds of doubt have been sown.
Oh, for sure.
And eventually the narrator becomes convinced that Uncle Bill is planning to poison him.
Could get the inheritance.
Exactly, and his royalties.
Wow, so he thinks he's the target.
He does.
Of the perfect murder.
Yeah, and this paranoia, it just consumes him.
Oh, God.
Right. Their home becomes this like psychological battleground.
Well, that's intense.
It is, and it makes you wonder, right?
About what?
Is his fear justified?
Yeah.
Or is it all in his head?
Is he just imagining things?
Yeah, is it just his own guilt and anxiety?
Yeah.
Projecting outwards?
That's a good question.
It is, and so the narrator, he starts planning his countermove.
Oh, this is getting good. What does he do?
He pretends to be sick.
Oh, wow.
He starts feigning these symptoms.
What?
Of arsenic poisoning.
Oh, my gosh. So he's like playing along.
He is.
With this deadly game.
Exactly. And all the while, he's like watching his uncle's every move.
Trying to catch him out.
Yes.
That's so clever.
It is, right? It's this like psychological warfare.
Yeah, who's going to crack first?
And then there's this climax. They're sharing a drink. This seemingly innocent gesture. But it's turned into this like deadly game of chance.
Oh, wow.
Because the narrator, He's convinced
that the drink is poisoned.
That his drink is poisoned.
Yeah.
So he switches the glasses.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So now it's Uncle Bill's drink that's poisoned.
Right. And he just leaves his fate in the hands of his would-be murderer.
That's intense.
It is, right? And Bond, he doesn't explicitly say what's in the glass.
Right.
But it's pretty clear what's going on.
Yeah, one drink's poisoned, the other's not.
Exactly. And so Uncle Bill, he drinks from the poisoned glass.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he collapses.
And the narrator just watches?
He watches horrified, but also kind of relieved.
Oh, wow, I bet, yeah.
Right. And the ending, it's left open to interpretation.
In what way?
Well, did Uncle Bill intentionally poison his own drink?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right. Was it like this twisted form of justice?
Yeah, or was it a miscalculation?
Or did he just mess up his own plan?
That's a great point.
And so he said it with arsenic. It adds this whole other layer to our understanding of the perfect murder.
How so?
Well, it really delves into the psychology of both the perpetrator and the victim.
Right. We see both sides of the coin.
Totally. And it explores this like paranoia and fear that can drive someone to these extreme measures.
That's a good point.
And it also makes us think about the ripple effects of past actions.
Right, like Uncle Bill's history.
Exactly.
It kind of hangs over the whole story.
It does.
Yeah, it influences everything.
So after looking at all these different stories, what can we say about this idea of the perfect murder?
It's a tough one.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It seems like this pursuit of a flawless crime, it's ultimately unattainable.
Especially in fiction.
Especially in fiction, right? There are always these consequences that complicate matters.
Like you said, intended or not.
Exactly, whether it's the psychological toll or a brilliant detective or the weight of past sins.
Or just bad luck.
Yeah, something always disrupts this illusion of perfection.
It's like there's no such thing as a truly perfect crime.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that can go wrong.
And maybe that's what makes these stories so compelling.
Yeah.
Right?
Why do we love these stories so much?
Well, they force us to confront the complexities of human nature.
Yeah, the darkness and the light.
Totally. The motivations behind these acts.
Yeah, why do people do the things they do?
And this delicate balance between order and chaos.
That's a good point. It's like we're trying to make sense of the world.
Exactly. And maybe even find some comfort in the fact that even in fiction, true perfection, it's elusive.
It is, and that's probably a good thing.
It probably is.
Yeah.
So that's it for our deep dive into The Perfect Murder.
That was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
And that it maybe sparked some thoughts.
For sure.
About the complexities of human nature.
Yeah. And the stories we tell ourselves.
Exactly. Until next time, stay curious.
See you then.